I just want to welcome Scott Ritter to the show. Scott, thank you so much for joining us. Always appreciate you coming on. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, thanks. Yourself?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for coming. Lots to speak about, Scott. Lots of escalation. Let's get right into the main parts of it. Let's go backwards. Or actually, let's go to the Project Freedom. The United States of America decided to enact Project Freedom, which is essentially what they're saying is they're going to get the vessels which are stuck in the Strait of Hormuz and escort them out. What's your thoughts on that?
No, they're not.
Well, you mean it won't be possible? But what's the kind of what I mean? What's your analysis? Why do you think it's going to fail?
Because Iran controls the Strait of Hormuz. Iran has the ability to interdict shipping. Iran has the ability to, carry out attacks against strategic infrastructure in the region. The United States lacks the military capacity to force the Strait and suppress Iran's ability to sink ships. You can get one or two leakers. That doesn't mean you've opened the Strait. Um, you open the Strait when every ship that's currently stuck in the Persian Gulf is able to freely transit without fear of interdiction or destruction. Your best bet is to check with the insurance companies. Don't check with me. Check with the insurance companies. And if the insurance companies are willing to underwrite the cargo of the ships and say, we think it's safe for you to transit through the Strait of Hormuz, then Operation Freedom has succeeded. Until that time, it's a failure.
And there were claims by the United States of America allegedly that two ships had been able to get out of the Strait. What's your information on that?
I read what the United States has posted. I don't know. I'm not in a position to contradict that. I would just say that you know, two ships does not a herd of ships make. There's a fleet of ships that are trapped in the Persian Gulf. Let's see when they get down. I don't know what was the port of origin of these ships. Did they actually go through the Strait of Hormuz, or were they stuck in a UAE port? On the Gulf of Arabia side, and were simply brought out under naval escort. Did American ships actually go through the Strait of Hormuz? I'd like to see the photographs that show that happened. A lot of claims are being made, but I do remember there's statements made by U.S. Central Command that U.S. Navy ships would not be seeking to go through the Strait of Hormuz. And then I also have other statements from them saying that there will be no military escorts of ships through there. That there's a southern passage that ships can do, but it's up to the ship's owners and insurance companies to determine whether or not it's safe to make those passages. Those are the statements that matter. Again, like I said, contact the insurance companies and tell me when they've decided that they're going to insure vessels transiting the Strait of Hormuz. When that happens, we know that the strait has been secured. Until that time, this is just propaganda coming from the United States of America that has shown a proclivity to lie over time.
Well, just to add to your point, what we saw was, I believe it was Trump's statement or it was from CENTCOM. What they said is, we've got a pathway. You need to go through the pathway, and then you can speak to Oman via VHF. I'm hearing that Oman hasn't even agreed to this. What's your thoughts on this route? The fact that they're giving a route through Oman, the fact that they're saying you need to go on VHF with Oman, and then apparently Oman doesn't know anything about this.
Welcome to Pete Hegseth's fantasy-driven world. This is something that was, there's a staff officer in Central Command down in MacDill Air Force Base in Tampa, Florida, who's very clever, and he said, "Hey, what if we do this? What if we just declare it to be? Because that's the only way we can make things happen." Again, let me just start off by pointing out, you and I right now are trying to have a fact-based conversation, but we find it's impossible to have a fact-based conversation because an entire set of quote-unquote facts is being provided by the United States, and it turns out that that's all fiction. Why would the United States be in the business of promulgating fiction? Because their job isn't to feed a fact-based narrative, but to feed a fantasy that exists in the addled, demented, mentally ill brain of an American president. And we have to acknowledge the mental illness of this president. He is a malignant narcissist. He suffers from easily diagnosable narcissistic personality disorder. This is a man whose brain doesn't function based upon reality, but functions based upon that which strokes his ego. if you're not in the business of stroking Donald Trump's ego, you're not going to have any impact on him. You and I are trying to have a fact-based discussion, but in order to do that, we have to be able to predict the thinking coming from an insane person, a mentally ill person. How do you predict the actions of a mentally ill person? And the answer is you can't. So here we have a situation where the United States military has done something designed to appease a whim of a president who posts policy on social media. When you have the State Department waiting for the next social media post of a president to find out what the frickin' policy of the United States is, you have a dysfunctional nation. The same thing with the Pentagon. So here they crafted a plan. Some guy said, hey, why don't we pick the furthest, the shipping channel furthest away from Iran and declare it to be open and let them sail along that. And we'll call it open. We opened it. We can fly an Apache helicopter over it and say we're securing it. But notice what they never once said that there'll be an American military escort. They basically put the total onus on the owner and the insurers. Make sure they also, I think the same statement said, we can't guarantee there's no mines there because we haven't adequately swept the passage, which means we don't control it. But it's been announced as if it's real because it's feeding the fantasy that exists in Donald Trump's addled brain.
Now, last night they claimed that they'd basically taken out a number of these boats that Iran uses, the Iranian Navy uses, the speedboats, or fast boats. Now, reports have now been confirmed that actually what they targeted and hit was apparently 2 civilian vessels and killed 5 civilians. What's your information and thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, it's the same information, but let's parse it out. We know, for instance, that the United States, we like to have what's called ISR, intelligence, surveillance, reconnaissance, over target at all times. And we have a history of doing this, even in the most, demanding environments. If you recall, Chapman, the airman who died in Takurgur in Afghanistan, Roberts Ridge, he got the Medal of Honor based upon a videotape produced by an American drone flying overhead, recording the totality of the conflict. And in that, we were able to see the truth about what happened, not the fake crap that the Navy SEALs put in their after-action report, but what the truth was. And it was sufficient to give him a Medal of Honor and contradict the testimony of a Navy SEAL who was given a Medal of Honor because the SEALs had to have a Medal of Honor if the Navy was going to get a Medal of Honor. We know Black Hawk Down. We had surveillance over the entire time, filming everything. That's how we operate. And so we see that in the Caribbean when we start sinking these alleged narco ships. We film everything, man, and we play it. So here we have the greatest military victory in modern history, apparently, is the United States Navy closed with these fast attack boats. And according to the president, they're just speedboats with machine guns on the front, and we sank them. Where's the video, Mr. President? Where's the video? Because we record everything. There is a thing called the fog of war. And I also have to, point out that the United States right now is we're trying to sell a narrative that isn't backed up by reality. I would say that, again, we probably sailed 2 destroyers past the demarcation line of the blockade into the Arabian Gulf. This much we admit. And those destroyers closed with the Strait of Hormuz. They were warned off by the Iranians. When the time came, the Iranians fired warning shots at them, and they panicked. They went into full attack mode. Now, people say the United States military is too well trained to panic, except we have the case of the USS Vincennes in a similar situation, shooting down an Iranian air passenger jet because they mistook it for an F-14 on attack profile, even though it didn't match it. We panicked. We do that. We panicked. We shot them down. We panicked here, and we shot 2 civilian ships that we misidentified as fast attack vessels. We could get inaccurate radar readings. It brings up the Gulf of Tonkin affair, where, of course, we went to war against Vietnam based upon non-existent torpedo attack profiles because the radar was read wrong or got wrong or whatever. I think that rather than the United States heroically fighting off an effort by 6 Iranian fast attack boats, to attack a vessel. We panicked when the Iranians targeted our ships, and our ships misidentified. If you've been to the region, go to Dubai someday, if you can. I don't know if it'll exist when this is all said and done, because I think the United Arab Emirates is marked for death, as they should be. But Dubai, you go to the port and you have a whole bunch of dhows there. Dhows are small little wooden boats that ply the waters, that make connectivity with the Gulf Arab states. This is how a lot of business is done. But they also cross the Strait of Hormuz into Iran and do business in the duty-free zone of Qashm Island. Um, and they're there, and other boats are making that transit all the time. Even today, the idea of a blockade against Iran was just proven false, because there is economic connectivity between the United Arab Emirates and Iran as we speak. And some of those boats are in the water, and the United States Navy panicked and sunk them. Yay, welcome to America, where we lie about everything. And we don't tell the truth about anything. So there you go. That's what I think happened.
And this one question I got for you, and I did want to ask you this. And you mentioned about those two destroyers. You said there was one shots fired at them. They panicked, but they managed to get through. Why did they manage to get through? Did Iran let them go through? I'm hearing reports that Iran kind of let them go through, but I want your expertise on this.
Well, again, did they get through?
Apparently they did. Yeah, I was just looking at it.
What's your evidence?
I saw a report from. I'll have to double check where I saw it, but it was some kind of tracker, and it said they're now towards like the UAE area.
On the other side of the strait,
Yeah,
off of Abu Dhabi, off of
yeah. Now just take that with a grain of salt. But I did check. There's a few sources I quickly read, but I didn't have time to fully verify.
Well, I've seen the same sources, but until I see a photograph of a U.S. Navy destroyer off the coast of the United Arab Emirates, I'm going to hold back on that.
Okay.
Because that's a narrative that they want you to see. But again, the idea that Iran is going to allow these ships to transit, is the Iranians haven't made any statement, and it's too early. I'm not saying that didn't happen. I'm just saying that I'm not going to comment on something that I don't have hard evidence that it actually occurred. Especially given the panic of the thing. It appears that it was an American munition that struck, the UAE oil facility, not an Iranian drone attack, as people, as the UAE likes to say. It was an intramural firefight between the United States and United Arab Emirates. Iran hasn't taken credit for that attack. They said we didn't do it. It was the Americans that did it. That attack took at the same place at the same time that the United States sunk 2 civilian ships. So I just can't see the United States going through this panicked period and suddenly bravely sailing through the Strait of Hormuz. But who knows?
Okay. Something important you just mentioned now was about Fujairah. And I did read the statement of the Iranian foreign minister, and there was actually two ways to read it. And I'm glad you're kind of highlighting maybe the other perspective, because I kind of read it a bit different. And one was he was basically saying, it sounded like he was saying, as you said, that many people thought this was the United States of America hitting Fujairah oil refinery, industrial center. And the other claim, or the other way of reading it, was that actually this was a response, because the United States of America was warned, if you attempt to do what you're trying to do on the Strait of Hormuz, the target will be this, and because you did this, now we've done this. So there was two ways of reading this. So you think it's definitely the former, and if you can elaborate on why you believe it to be the case.
First of all, I don't definitely think anything, because I'm not there. Back when I was an intelligence officer, I had access to sources of information that were hard. I could put eyes on target and confirm things. Today, I'm an analyst sitting thousands of miles removed from the problem, relying upon data coming through sources that are untested, unknown, unverifiable. So I don't know anything. I'm just saying that past precedent does guide current assessments, and the United States has a history of lying. The Iranian government less so. That doesn't mean that the Iranian government can't be, wrong in things they've been saying. We know that there appears to be some sort of disconnect sometimes between the IRGC and the civilian leadership. We also know that because Iran has made the decision to, um, you know, to the word I'm looking for escapes me, but basically you delegate. There's the word I was going to use. You delegate decision making to 31 independent military districts. That these military districts are capable of operating on their own. They have authority to do so, and sometimes they act without full coordination with the Iranian government because they're still in a time of war. So there's the potential for disconnect within the Iranian messaging apparatus. We don't know. I just don't trust anything Pete Hegseth says about anything.
So yesterday, though, there was around 8 waves of attacks towards the UAE, hitting a number of different locations. We saw one today as well, or one or two today. So, I mean, why? What was the reason why Iran targeted the UAE?
Well, again, have the Iranians acknowledged targeting the UAE?
Well, yeah, I believe so. I mean, read a number of the statements. It did seem like some of the waves were from Iran, right? Are you saying they've not taken credit for any of them?
I don't know. I haven't seen the Iranian government say this is what we're doing. What I do know is that when you have a high state of military, to give you an example, I was in Saudi Arabia during the Gulf War, and on the first day of the Gulf War, a Patriot battery outside of Dhahran shot down an Iraqi Scud. I mean, shot it down. They engaged it, shot it down, and the guy got a medal for it. There was no Iraqi Scud in the air. It was a false signature. It was basically an anomaly on the radar that was targeted and fired. But we declared it to be existent. Medal was given, so therefore, the official history of the United States Army is that we shot down a Scud on the day when no Scuds were fired. And I also know that throughout the war there were false engagements. Based upon AWACS, electronic interference being misrepresented by. So when you have a situation where you have an integrated air defense system consisting of American systems that have been patched together haphazardly, because remember, a lot of these systems were destroyed during the 4-day war. The United States now brought in, Israel has come in, so now you're linking Israeli systems with UA systems, with American systems. And now they're on ultra high alert, which means they have the sensors out there looking for everything. That there's plenty of opportunity for mistakes to be made. So again, I'm not saying that Iran didn't attack. I'm saying I don't have evidence of this attack, and that history has shown that in high tension environments like this, air defense often creates enemies where no enemies exist.
Okay. Now, if we go with the situation that it was Iran, what would be the tactical reason why Iran would go for the UAE?
There's no tactical reason. There's a strategic reason.
Okay.
And the strategic reason is to eliminate the United Arab Emirates as a national entity, which Iran has said will happen. If the United States or the United Arab Emirates bombs Iran, attacks Iran, the UAE will cease to exist. Iran will strike the totality of their energy production capacity, and they will take out desalination plants, and it'll make life unsustainable in this pathetic little British imperial residue. There's no love lost between me and the UAE. I've been there many times. I thought their cities were magnificent, but then I recognized the absolute corrupt nature of their regime, and the fact that they have aligned themselves with Israel shows that they've betrayed their Islamic roots and their human roots. They are supporting active genocide and a greater Israeli project, which requires Israel to steal land from fellow Arabs, fellow Muslims. So the UAE is a nation that deserves death, and Iran has promised to give them death if they participate in active military operations against Iran going forward.
When you look at the UAE, of all the Gulf states, they've been very blasé about the attacks on Iran. If you look at many of the influencers who are paid, and actually my sources tell me they're offering people $50,000 apparently per video, they continue to attack Iran, but continue to push this notion that they want kinetic warfare. What makes them distinct in this, or have they just been chosen from your perspective as kind of being so belligerent?
Because they're like Israel. They recognize that this is an existential struggle, one that if they lose, their nation could go away. There's more at play here than just UAE versus Iran. There's UAE versus Saudi Arabia, which is a problem set that exists not just in terms of behavior in the Gulf, but if you go to the Horn of Africa and into Africa itself. The UAE is desperate to be seen as a counter to Saudi Arabia. And they're failing egregiously. The UAE has been compelled to withdraw resources from Africa because of this conflict. The UAE has now alienated its relationship with Pakistan. Remember, Pakistan provides 85% of the UAE's military now, has been told to return, $3.5 billion in aid that UAE provided. Now the UAE's arrested 15,000 Pakistani civilians and going to deport them after seizing the money that they had put in UAE banks. Is this the sign of a stable government? Is this the sign of a stable society? No, it's a sign of a society in pure panic mode. And like Israel, they recognize the only path forward for sustainable survivability is kinetic warfare against Iran designed to defeat Iran. That the UAE knows that their lifestyle as it currently exists is incompatible with the continued existence of the Islamic Republic of Iran.
Well, I'm completely with you on this, Scott. I don't see much difference between the UAE and Israel. If you look at their support of genocide, whether it's in Sudan, Yemen, or any of these other, Somalia, or any of these countries, they're very similar to the Israelis. The one are Muslim Zionists, one are Jewish Zionists, but these are Zionists, no doubt. And never mind, they basically fund the hatred of Muslims. They then fund the extremism. They kind of play all sides in order to make things much worse for the entire globe. And never mind the elder systems that they help support in terms of the genocide in Gaza. So totally agree with everything you're saying there. In terms of this is do not think I'm stupid when I'm asked the question. I kind of know the answer, but I want you to kind of say it. UAE, they boast that they've got extremely brilliant military prowess. They say they've got the best drone technology. They seem to suggest that they're ready for this war. What's your thoughts on their military capability?
The proof is in the pudding. It's curious that the UAE's military is suddenly going to be turned into a regional powerhouse when the United States, who possesses military technology that is 20 times better than anything the UAE will possess. What can the UAE do to Iran that the United States hasn't done? On a scale matched by the United States or Israel? Is the UAE saying that their military prowess is better than that of the state of Israel? They're better than the Israelis? Well, they sort of had to ask the Israelis for help on this one. That's why Israeli soldiers were on the ground operating the Iron Dome system. So this is just lies from a pathetic nation state, that is governed by, a family that was put in by the British. I've been to the UAE. I've worked with the Crown Prince. I've worked with those people, and I know who advises them. The closest advisor to them are British MI6 operatives attached, to the UAE, and nothing gets through to them unless it goes through their MI6 controllers. There's a reason why, the Flamingo drone that the Ukrainians use is built in the UAE by a British UAE company on behalf of Ukraine. They can say what they want. They've likened themselves to be the Spartan of the Middle East. What I do know is that when they fight on the ground, they get their ass handed to them by the Houthi. That the Houthi kick their ass every single time. I do know that they're incapable of putting out an army composed of actual citizens of the United Arab Emirates, because the citizens are a bunch of fat former Bedouin who don't know how to survive in the desert, who hide in air-conditioned buildings, screwing their Thai whores that they bring in. These are horrible human beings. Horrible human beings. They're not good people. They buy intellectual veneer that they surround themselves with. They put in something, the Louvre, and they put in this museum and that museum. But that's just fake stuff. These are bad people, bad human beings who have no moral values. And that's what I know about the United Arab Emirates. And so the sooner that this nation state can be eradicated, erased, eliminated, the better. The world will be a better place without a United Arab Emirates. Maybe it's time that we downscale Dubai to stop being this. Dubai again is just is an example. They're supposed to be a modern Muslim state with modern Muslim values. Dubai is the biggest whorehouse in the world. Okay, it's literally the biggest whorehouse in the world. You can get anything in Dubai. You want to buy cocaine, you can get cocaine in Dubai. You want heroin, you can get heroin in Dubai. You can get everything. Now you've got to do it in accordance with the rules, which means you're bribing people, you're paying off corrupt police. But Dubai is a whorehouse, a brothel for the Middle East. It's a playground. The expats are there. How do you think you get all that money coming in, all that money invested in the Dubai banks? Because you turned Dubai into a brothel, a living brothel. Abu Dhabi less so, but still not not the paragon of virtue that it proclaims to be. There's a lot of hypocrisy. Go to Bahrain. I was in Bahrain as a weapons inspector. That causeway that connects Saudi Arabia to Bahrain? Go to the Saudi side of the causeway and look at all the little mosques that are built around there. They're built by Saudi businessmen who go to Bahrain, commit the most egregious sins possible, and on the way back, they donate money as if to absolve themselves of the sins they committed. So this is the reality of the Gulf Arab states. Talk to me about Kuwait, how the emir of Kuwait would get a yacht to bring United Nations officials out, put them on the yacht, and as soon as you passed the border where you're in Kuwaiti territorial waters, the booze came out and the whores came out, because that's what they do. This is the reality. I've been to Iran. Now, I'm not saying Iran's perfect. I'm not saying aren't videotapes of minor ayatollahs committing sins. Of course they do. Humans are humans. But Iran is a pious nation that adheres to a standard relatively consistently. They treat their women with a respect that you will never see in Saudi Arabia, ever. So these people that posture the Iranians as being these savages, and because that's a word that's used, savages. They're not. They're the most civilized people in the Middle East right now. The savages are the former Bedouin head choppers, the Wahhabists who control Riyadh today, or have been put in place by the British so that the British can retain some sort of neo-colonial control over the Middle East.
So I agree with everything you said there, Scott. And to add to what you're saying, and as someone who's been to Dubai and then been banned from the UAE for my positions, what I will say is they have no history as well. Like you said, museums, these are like fake artificial ones. You look at the malls, they've got one. Do you know, like Dubai Mall has one bookshop, and that bookshop was put in by the Japanese. That kind of tells you the intellectual nature of these people.
But you can ski. You can ski.
With some Russian women from who are trying to escape the war. But yeah, totally agree with you. And one of the things that they, in terms of their fighter jets, they claim they've got the F-15s, they claim they've got a number of different fighter jets. Because I know, for example, Saudi Arabia, and you'll be perfect to answer this, I know Saudi Arabia essentially gets the Pakistanis to come and train them, and then they actually make them fly the F-15 or F-35 fighter jets. How does the Emiratis conduct this? Because I can't imagine some of these Emiratis in these fighter jets.
I mean, when you get to the Air Force and the technical aspect of it, I can't give you an exact percentage, but I would say that there are Emirati pilots flying these aircraft. They do have institutes of higher education, and they do have highly educated people. And these are the ideal jobs for the young aspiring Emirati. I mean, there's, first of all, understand they don't fight real wars.
Yeah.
You're not going to find an Emirati fighter ace. Okay. They don't like, they like the idea of getting up in an airplane, wearing your Breitling watch, and flying out and doing maneuvers, and then landing the airplane and coming off and taking the helmet off and posturing. I am an Emirati fighter pilot. And sometimes they like the idea of maybe, flying against a nation that doesn't have any air defense. So you can fly in and you can drop a bomb. But, when the going gets tough, the Emirati get going. as the opposite direction. Remember, the UAE flew aircraft in support of the anti-ISIS operation until it became too dangerous, and then they stopped flying support because they'll be damned if they're going to actually get shot down and captured. That's not what they do. They're not there to fight and serve their country and die for their country. They're there to pose and posture for photographs. So I would say that they have it, but the people training them, now I will tell you, I wouldn't be surprised if we find out there's an Israeli connection with the training with the UAE pilots. American connection, British connection, French connection. They probably even tapped into Pakistan's most recent combat experience against India. They have the resources to bring in the best trainers. I mean, when I was a firefighter, I was looking at potential of going to Bahrain or the United Arab Emirates to do training, to be an advisor for them. They've got money, and they love to have foreigners come in and train them. It just turned out that I don't like them that much.
They're not hard to like. They're not easy to like.
I'm not prejudiced against Arabs. I told General Caulfield, the head of the Warfighting Center in Quantico on the eve of the Gulf War, that we're fighting the wrong Arabs. I said the Arabs we should be fighting alongside are the Iraqis. They're the most industrious, well-educated, hardworking people out there. Yeah. And why we're aligned against the Iraqis while they're fighting the Kuwaitis, who are just fat, disgusting human beings. I mean, the Kuwaitis sat in the hotel in Riyadh before the war began, and I overheard them talk about how they were going to be going back to Kuwait City because the Americans that they bought for. We bought these Americans. We paid for these Americans. And I had to be physically escorted out of the hotel because I was going to go over there and kill him and say, nobody buys me. I'm an American fighting man that works for the United States of America only. And I take orders only from my commander-in-chief. And if some fat Kuwaiti prince is going to sit there and pretend that he's the one issuing the orders, I'll set him straight. So I was banned from the hotel. Then the war began and we didn't eat in hotel buffets anymore. But I don't like the Kuwaitis. I don't like the Bahrainis. I don't like the Saudis. I don't like any of these people because they're fake. They don't do their own work. They don't do their own fighting. They bring in outsiders to fight for them. Every problem is solved by pouring money into it instead of rolling up your sleeves and studying this problem. They bring in outside consultants. That's why the expat communities are so big. That's just the reality of it. And, if you want to make money, you can turn a blind eye to this stuff. But, go to Iran. They do their own work.
Yeah.
They do their own fighting. They do everything themselves. Iran, when I was studying the Iranian nuclear program, one of the facts that came out is that the Iranian nuclear scientists and the people involved, they're part of a community that has the largest percentage of peer-reviewed PhD thesis in the Middle East, more so than Israel. These are the smartest people in the world. Peer-reviewed means globally, not just an internal subset, but globally. These are genius level people, again, who are highly cultured. They have a work ethic. They have a moral code. You can't say that Bedouin tribesmen have a moral code because they don't. Amongst themselves perhaps, but the Bedouin code is not a code that's conducive to modern society. The Iranian code is. So why are we supporting, this throwback to a prior age? And we know what the answer is: because of money. We put the people in charge of the oil that will be loyal to us, and that's what we got. But the quality of life in these countries, it's all superficial. They have a whole bunch of flash up top and a lot of rot below. I saw that in Bahrain. You can go to the great hotels. You can go to the bars. You can go to the bars. You can be entertained by the best music money can buy. But when you get out into the streets and you see how the rest of the world lives, you realize that this is a double standard here, that this is propped up by something that isn't too nice. And when you start talking to the Shia of Bahrain, you realize how despicable the royal family is. And then when you talk to the Gulf Air stewardesses who were trained in Bahrain, and you realize that they're nothing more than paid prostitutes for the sheikh and his inner circle, it's the reality is real, and it's awful and it's horrible. And why we continue to align ourselves with bad people is beyond me. There's some good people out there, and the Iranians are good people.
No doubt. And just to add to what you're saying, if, for example, in the Emirates, the way they treat the underclass is horrific. You look at it, and it is like, look, the rich parts are like a paradise in certain aspects of it. But then when you go and see the way they treat the underclass, they look exhausted. If you speak to any of them, they're doing 80, 90 hours. A lot of them are exhausted. They don't have the same rights. It is a supremacist society in the same manner that the Israelis are. They do believe in the same ideology. And just to add to what you're saying, in terms of the lack of ability to do things, there was, the Saudi project that they were planning to do, the Neon City and a few other big skyscrapers they're doing. Those failed. And I was told that the reason they failed is with the Emiratis, they know that they're incompetent. So they're like, look, we're incompetent. We're going to completely just get everybody from the outside to come and build. They'll be the builders. We'll get the underclass to build it. We'll get the Americans or Brits to be the project managers. And there won't be any Emirati involved in the entire process. With the Saudis, they still want to be the project managers. And so that's why the project just continues to fail. So it just demonstrates this lack of ability to do anything which is comparable to the West or even Iran. So I completely agree with what you're saying there.
Yeah,
But
when you buy your engineering degrees, which is what they do, these princes send their son to universities. The sons drink and whore, play sports, lift weights, try to look beautiful, have a nice lifestyle. They do anything but study. But when you are underwriting a major program or a couple chairs, the so-and-so chair of philosophy and the so-and-so chair of this are all paid for by that, the son is going to get passing grades. He's going to be an honor roll student. He doesn't learn anything. He comes home with this degree, and now they have to put him to work with this degree, but he has no work ethic. He continues to whore and drink and all this stuff, but he doesn't have an engineering mind. But now he's a project manager who can't manage, but they won't admit it, so the project fails. Welcome to the Middle East.
totally agree. Well, Gulf states, but I agree with you. And so bringing it back to these attacks that happened yesterday, whether they're from the United States of America, whether they're from Iran, is there going to be a response? Because the Israelis and all the Emiratis are like, something's coming. This is our October 7th. Like, we're going to respond. We hear that the Israelis are saying we're going to respond for Emirates. We hear we had the Trump administration say the opposite. They're like, look, it didn't even meet the threshold. What happens?
Well, let me put it this way. When the UAE is attacked by Iran, you'll know they're attacked by Iran. I mean, isn't it quite obvious when the missiles... Did you see the videotape of the missiles coming in over the Dubai sky?
Yeah.
This last time? No, this last time.
Oh, no, I didn't know.
Oh, really? But I thought they were attacked. You see what I'm getting at? When the United Arab Emirates is attacked, they'll know that they're attacked, and we'll know that they're attacked because they'll be attacked. Whatever happened wasn't an attack. Because they still exist. They won't exist when the attack happens. This is the message that Aragchi sent to Vladimir Putin. This is why Vladimir Putin called Donald Trump for 90 minutes. He said, don't do this. Because if you attack Iran, they will change the world, the global reality overnight. This is why Kuwait has declared a state of emergency and Bahrain has declared a state of emergency, because they understand what's about to happen. There are no defenses against what's about to happen. The attack against the United Arab Emirates will be sustained. You will be able to know that it's happening by the sound and light show that's occurring, but also by the fact that entire swaths of UAE infrastructure will be eliminated. And you know this. What's the water table of the UAE? I mean, how much water? What's their aquifer like?
Not great.
Yes. So how do they support those big cities, Abu Dhabi and Dubai? Desalination?
Yeah, without desalination, it's over for them.
Thank you. And that's what's going to happen. They aren't a regional superpower because they have easily identifiable Achilles heels, which will be struck repeatedly. They'll die as a society. And as I said, that's a good thing. I feel bad for the people that will suffer because of this, but I don't feel bad for the ruling families, not at all. They've ruled too long, and they've blown it. They have no credibility. They're not good people. They think they can buy their way out of everything. I I don't know where I'm going to go if I die. I don't know if there is a heaven, and if there was, if they'll let me in. But I would just ask one thing: just let me be at the pearly gates when the UAE royal family shows up for admission, because I love to see
Scott, we're on the same page here. Let me be the person by your side while I'm watching that. Let me be.
Yeah. Afterwards, you can do whatever you want with me, okay? You can open up my book and go, you're going to hell. Fine. Send me to hell. But before you do, just let me be there and take a look at what's happening here, because those are really bad people.
Totally agree with you. Totally agree with you. When I hear what they did to Sudan, the genocide they did, when I look at the amputating the children and using it for rubber, look, these people are not good human beings whatsoever.
No.
Now, Scott, one question for you though. During the first 39 days, we did see a number of drones, a number of missiles be sent to UAE. My understanding, but I want your expertise on this. My understanding is the reason they did it, they sent the more older missiles. Just like in True Promise 1, do you remember when I spoke to you, I think like a year ago, you said, look, they're testing their systems out, they're figuring out what their weaknesses are, because when the real attack happens, they're going to hit them. That's what my understanding of what's been happening there is, but if you can elaborate, maybe you've got a better understanding of what happened there. Because there was a number of missiles and drones that were sent towards Dubai.
Oh, more than were sent towards Israel. But I think the answer is you need to, first of all, it's a political statement. When you have the leaders of the UAE, basically saying that we're immune to this, it doesn't get us, then boom. Well, wait a minute. I remember talking to Mario Nafal on the opening day of the war, and he was in his little golden tower that he's in, and he's sitting there, and I said, dude, you're going to get Dubai. They'll never attack Dubai. Boom, boom, boom. Yeah, they are, and they will. But the UAE was a very heavily defended position. Again, Israel. Why would Israel take Iron Dome out of Israel to the UAE? People have to ask themselves this question, because the UAE is essential to Greater Israel. They are the same thing. And so you have American defenses, you have UAE defenses, and you have Israeli defenses. And the way you defeat them one way is to just saturate, make them fire everything. And that's what they did. And now to replace it, you're not going to get it up to where it was. So the UAE is going to be, instead of operating at this level, they're going to be down here someplace. And it's just easier. The Iranians will come in and saturate it and take it out. They don't have the capacity to defend against Iran's high-end missiles. And all it's going to take is a handful of high-end missiles striking the right points. You shut down pipelines, you shut down oil production, you hit critical production facilities that can't be replaced. You don't need to light the storage tanks on fire. You just need to blow up critical production, critical refining capacity, and take out the desalination plants, take out power generation plants. I mean, It's going to get hot pretty soon. You take out the air conditioning and all of that big, the big buildings they have, no one's going to be in them because nobody can live in them because there won't be any air conditioning. It's the end.
It will be unlivable, because if you're there in June, I was there in June, it's without the air conditioning, it's completely unlivable, irrespective of where you are.
Yep. So I don't know why the UAE is so hell-bent on committing suicide. I think it's part of the posture. I think they're posturing.
Really?
Because the alternative is suicide. They're not going to win. They're simply not going to win.
Or they think that there's maybe a deal, like a ceasefire, a total complete agreement, and then that places them very close to Israel and the United States of America and becomes the main partner in the Middle East. Could that not be the calculation?
What deal? The United States is incapable of making deals. Sure. So again, that's delusional. In order to have a deal that would be acceptable to the UAE, Iran would have to concede defeat and make concessions that Iran's not going to make. So it's delusional. Again, I think that the UAE is in an existential crisis. I think they understand that they're on the slippery slope out of modern day relevance. And so they have no choice but to take a hardline position. And we're looking at the last days of the UAE. And for those who, like me, despise them, you almost hope the United States bombs, except I know that this will also bring harm to the Iranian people, and that's the last thing I want. But, I have the government of the United Arab Emirates is truly one of the most evil governments in the world, and whatever happens to them, you're not going to see any tears coming out of this eye.
I'm totally in agreement with you. I know it's wrong to say this, but I have the same feeling when I see Dubai being hit or UAE being hit as I do when Israel gets hit.
Because it's
And
the same thing.
yeah,
It's the
exactly.
same thing.
They are.
And
Ryan
we don't
calls
know it. Iron Dome is defending both.
exactly. Ryan calls it East Israel, and I think that's an apt name for them.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah, no doubt. And one last question, and I really appreciate you giving us all your time. Where do you see this going now? Because as you said, the blockade or this new Project Freedom seems like a facade. Nothing seems to go out. I did a Substack on the blockade, and more than 250 vessels have gone out. Iranian vessels, sanctioned vessels, full of oil. Iran's made a lot of money during this blockade.
Yeah.
So, I mean, what happens next? It's like they're doing a lot of fakery, but that fakery can only last so long before they have to make some real decisions.
Look, I think Aragchi is providing us with sort of the decoder rings you used to get in the boxes of cereal, so you could decode the message. Aragchi's our decoder ring. He went to Moscow and met with Putin. Putin made a 90-minute phone call to Trump where things were discussed. He is now in China where Trump's going to meeting with Xi Jinping. I think, again, we're dealing with Donald Trump, so standard geopolitical analysis and connect the dots doesn't apply here. This is about Donald Trump's ego, stroking his ego and creating a narrative that allows him to walk away and declare victory. And if the victory resonates in the minds of his pathetic, addled brain and those of his oxygen thieving supporters, good. Let them think they won. Iran doesn't care. As long as Iran controls the Strait of Hormuz and controls its future, they don't care. And trust me, Iranian control of the Strait of Hormuz is going to be the thing that allows Kuwait, Bahrain, Qatar to survive, because they will be able to transit their energy out. It may cost them a little bit, but hey, telling the Kuwaitis they can't, buy yet another, 47 to send their family to London. I've been to London when the Kuwaitis arrive, when the Saudis arrive. It ain't pretty. For Qatar to have another gold-plated 747 to give to Donald Trump. I mean, if they can't afford that kind of lifestyle anymore because they have to pay a little bit extra to get through, so be it. You'll still be wealthy and you'll still survive. But I'm not going to cry tears for these people because they can't sustain their corrupt lifestyles. But they will be able to survive as modern nation states. But the other thing it does is it terminates the Abrams Accords and the greater Israeli experiment in the Persian Gulf. There's still the issue of what happens in the Levant, but that's another problem. Hezbollah has shown that it can't be beat. And the beauty of an Iranian victory is that Hezbollah will never be beaten because it'll be permanently connected to Iran, just like the Houthi in Yemen. You're going to see, regional transformation. But Russia and China are the control rods, so to speak, in this nuclear reactor that is the Middle East, that is Iran. Iran's future is with the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, with BRICS, with the Eurasian Economic Union. This is the future of Iran, the future of the Middle East, pivoting away from Europe and the United States towards, the largest consumer of energy in the world, which is the developing economy of Asia. So I see that direction, but it comes down to how well Russia and China can stroke the ego of Donald Trump. Iran needs help here because there's no way Iran and Donald Trump are ever going to be on the same page. So the Russians and the Chinese have to help create this alternative reality in the mind of Donald Trump. Vladimir Putin's willing to do that. I mean, he's willing to do what he can. You see the Russians making a good faith effort to try and get control of the 60% enriched uranium. But the United States has to make a move. The United States can't make a move until Donald Trump declares victory. And so I think right now it's up to the Russians and the Chinese to create a scenario in the mind of an insane man that allows him to believe that he won this war without actually winning the war.
And that's going to be a tall feat, because if you look on social media, any Trump pro-Trump pundit is finding it very difficult to kind of prove the position that he's winning. In the past, when things, for example, the tariffs, he lost in the tariffs, but MAGA was able to make some decent arguments. It wasn't a complete obliteration when it came to these conversations or debates. But with this, it's just so difficult that I think it's not going to be easy. Scott, thank you so much for taking your time out to join us. Trust me, this was one of my favorite because of our joint dislike of the UAE. People are they're already trolling in the chat, talking about how much we both dislike the UAE.
Well, what I know is, there used to be the option to fly through Dubai to get to Russia. That option no longer exists. So,
well, welcome to the club, Scott. I'm banned from the Emirates, so we'll have to create our own pathway. But appreciate you coming on, Scott. Where can people find you? I know there's a lot of AI versions of you, which isn't you, but where else can people find you?
Yeah, all I would say about the AI version is if I'm standing here not moving and talking like this, and it's AI, because I don't do this. As you see, I get a little animated and stuff. So you got to see movement in order to be real. Two, the background's got to look like this. It can't look like some sort of distorted, clean version. No. ScottRitter.com is a one-stop shop. You go there, you get to my Substack page. On my Substack page, there's a number of tabs that get you the different projects that I'm involved in. It's free subscription. So go there, read. Nobody asks anything. What I would point out, though, is like you, I'm an independent journalist. So like you, I depend upon the support of supporters, followers, etc. So I would encourage everybody to support Suleiman's work, to keep him on the air. So he can bring in guests. If you like me as a guest, great. If you like the other ones, great. But it only happens if he's able to do this. But I'm the same way. A subscription to my Substack pays my salary, which means that allows me to pay for the electricity that powers my computer, puts a roof over my head, it puts food in the refrigerator for my wife and I, and feeds my dogs so that they're quiet while I do podcasts like this. But I do travel. And for instance, I'm getting ready to do another trip to Russia. I think it's important to go to Russia, especially as we enter the 5th year of this conflict. You can't, Russia's a moving target. I've said that my mission is to bring the Russian reality back to the United States as an antidote to Russophobia. But if I'm dealing with 2-year-old information, Russia has changed. The things have changed. So it requires, to go and update one's database, to interview people, to visit things, to go see things firsthand. And so that's what I'm going to do. But it requires also financial support. I pay for everything. I know there's a lot of people who hate Scott Ritter out there and call me, Putin's puppet and all this stuff. I pay for my airfare. I pay for my hotels. I pay for my transportation in country. I pay for my food. I pay for studios. I pay for cameramen. I pay for interpreters. I pay for editors. I pay for producers. I pay for everything so that nobody can say that somebody is influencing my work. But that's not cheap and it's not free. And that is the donation button. When you donate, you're helping me be an independent journalist. When you subscribe, you're helping me survive here in the United States. If you can do one, great. If you can do both, great. But again, I just say support independent journalism where you find it and you like it. Without us, mainstream media will take over and you'll get narratives that don't match reality.
Well, Scott, you've been instrumental in letting people know the reality of what's going on in this war. This is why so many people have woken up. So I definitely encourage every single person on all the different streams. We're on everyone. We got the millennials, the Gen X's, the Gen Z's. We're on TikTok. We're on Substack. We're on everything. So sorry?
You got the boomers?
We've got the boomers as well. My Facebook is full of the boomers. So everyone, make sure you follow Scott's Substack and do donate to him. He's so right. It's not easy to do this. We really appreciate you. I think everyone should be supporting you. Thank you so much for taking your time out to join us.
Thanks for having me.
Appreciate you as always. That was Scott, guys. Make sure you go to his Substack. Make sure you follow. Make sure you subscribe and do donate to him. He's 100% right. It's not easy to do. You know how hard traveling is? I'm literally myself thinking, look, I can't travel because of the financial burden. So give him the support, give him the help, subscribe to his channel. In terms of this YouTube video, make sure you like it. Make sure you comment on it. Make sure you subscribe and have your notifications on. Look at the guests we're getting, you guys. Golden guests, pure gold. So subscribe to this YouTube. Next, we've got on Lieutenant Colonel Anthony Aguilar. He's coming in a couple of minutes. And then we've got Lieutenant, Then we've got the ex-CIA, Larry Johnson. What a lineup. We got the Kings coming on today. We got the 3 Kings coming on today. Awesome lineup. So in this YouTube video, subscribe to it. Sorry, like this video, comment in the main section. And I don't know how else to boost a YouTube video, but you guys will know. So do that for me. And then separate to that, subscribe. Have your notifications on. We've got so many great interviews coming up today. We've got so many great interviews tomorrow. Tomorrow we've got Treaty Parsi coming on. And possibly Professor Morandi coming on tomorrow. And then we've got the debate with Rabbi Shmuley as well. I just want to thank these people who sent